This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
All right. Welcome to the War Room today. We have another great guest. Gonna definitely drop some good truth bombs on us today. No doubt about that. I always like to start the show off with a bit of an introduction, but I suck at it. So I'm just being truthful. But I really suck at doing introductions. So can you just give a 30-second soundbite, brother, on who you are and what your superpower is?
Yeah, it's a great one. Superpower. I'm Justen Arnold. I am a father of three. I am 43. I live here in Rochester, New York, but originally from Chicago suburbs. So I'm a Chicago food fan and a Chicago sports fan. I coach sports. I own a gym. I've authored 2 best-selling books. You know, you name it under the health and wellness window. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. So whether it be nutrition, whether it be life coaching, I'm just here to get people to move better or feel better and just live a better life ultimately. I love the outdoors. I do a lot of camping. And my superpower, man, I feel is just bringing joy into people's lives, especially through adversity, and just really just feeling energies too in the room and absorbing those energies and just knowing what people need or want, especially from a client standpoint, before they even say it. So that's a little bit of me, and but again, grateful to be here, excited to be on here, and hopefully drop some nuggets and help some people as best as I can.
Yeah, man, that's a great superpower to have, right? I think oftentimes in business, sometimes we have to step back and take a look at why we did it in the first place, right? So
Yeah. Like, I guess I left off, like, I could say, like, I've always been able to adapt and navigate through challenges and adversity, and that's been my life story since pretty much birth. So I do that now, and I teach people how to do that. And even with my kids, I left off. I feel like I'm another superpower, just being an amazing dad. I will hold that title proudly. So.
Well, man, if that's a superpower,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much left to even care about, because that's the next humans that replace us. So there you go.
Right.
For sure.
So true. Amen.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I'm curious. Did you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Were you that kid that had a lemonade stand? Curious to know that.
I did have like lemonade stands, but I mean, I've been working for as long as I could because my parents were not entrepreneurs. They
Mm-hmm.
were master's degrees educators, and it was like you had to go to school, you had to go to college, you had to get straight A's, and that pressure of that. But for me, I always felt like, a kid that I didn't fit in the mold of like that kind of structure. I would navigate to my grandma's farm in Western Illinois, and I love that. I mean, I was making $5 an hour since I was like 5 years old, and it wasn't even about the money. It was just like the freedom, the doing something. So I would say, like, not really, but my grandparents. I come from a long line of farming that stopped at my grandparents. It doesn't exist anymore. So if anything, maybe that would be a little bit in the genealogy of like running your own business, but. I would say no. It was more about go to school, get a good paying job, work for the man, essentially, without using those exact words.
Right.
Do the 9 to 5, do the safe thing, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I didn't feel it was safe. I saw my parents working 6 jobs between the two of them, and I'm like, here's these guys with well-paying master's degrees, but living paycheck to paycheck, filing for bankruptcy twice, never going on vacations, constantly stressed. It's like, this doesn't look joyful. Like, I don't want that life.
Yeah,
So that got
right.
me into that actually, like, by just being self-aware of that, and it really has gotten me to where I am by, now I've always said a testament, no matter what earlier on when our family started, my wife and kids, we weren't in the best financial state. So like I'd always said, we're going to take vacations. there's benefits and purpose in that. So like I use the example of my parents and the work hard, live hard, die early type thing. And I feel like life's meant to be enjoyed, but it's also meant to be purposeful, and we're supposed to do things and provide a service and that sorts for people. So
Yeah, it's amazing that, you know, like I assume we're probably fairly close to the same age, but um like our parents and their parents, and they were subjected to that work hard your whole life and save your money and then die. I mean, I mean,
work long, go to school for like a third of your life, work
yeah,
like two-thirds of your life to
and then
enjoy a small percentage of it with
right,
money potentially when we're not physically or mentally as good as we could have been to enjoy all this stuff in our earlier years. So, yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I saw that message and I was like, screw that.
yeah,
Can I
yeah,
work hard and play hard at the same time? Like, you
right,
know,
right,
and
right,
that's why I'm
and
big on health. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I did that too. I did 23 years in the military, retired, and you know what? But I chose to do more. And the more was I chose to, really be involved in entrepreneurial things while I was in the military. And then it made it so much easier when I did leave, and my purpose was different. It was for service to country, but the truth of the matter is our education system raises employees. If nobody's figured that out yet. Right?
I think a lot of people, at least like I'm in the health world,
Yeah.
and a lot of, at least the network of health entrepreneurs I'm with, we've been seeing that for like since we had kids and put them in it. Some of my friends are homeschooling because they can. I wish. So but I try to play as big as role as I can. I teach my kids to I've taught the what's called what I've called the grain of salt mentality, and
Mm,
people have probably heard that phrase, but I tell my kids take everything with a grain of salt. Like there's facts, but just know those things can change. There's things we're even learning about history that are changing. There's things we're learning about Jesus that might be evolving what was going on during his time period. My daughter just came home yesterday talking about the Crusades, and I was curious of how they're teaching the Crusades, and I was
hmm.
like, I just said, take everything. Some things are opinion, and it was whoever survived enough to write this stuff down. So, you know, ask questions, be curious, but don't be religious to any of the information you get because one, the books are written from somebody else's perspective and opinion, and then a teacher is teaching it from their perspective and opinion. So
Hmm.
just keep an open mind that I wasn't given that. I wasn't told that. It was like, obey the rules, stay inside the line. Like, let's put it this way. I'll say this. This is a good example. We want kids to be creative. We say it anyways, but then they tell the kids, here's this, stay inside the line. And they mean that, right? Like, be a
Right.
good employee instead of a good employer. We don't teach kids, doesn't mean everybody should be an entrepreneur, right? It just means like we should, to really be ourselves and really find ourselves, we should give some flexibility to it. Like what they're teaching in schools isn't what they really should be learning, at least in westernized school systems,
Yeah.
to live. And they were seeing that now in society. People are getting out, they're getting degrees and things that we'll never get a job in, spending all this money on the college degree, and then they don't even know how to balance their checkbook or save or
Right.
invest. And so
Yeah, that's the scary part, right? I mean, even, just to kind of go back and touch on what you said, I mean, at least I feel I grew up in when the legend becomes fact, print the legend, right? And that's what we were taught. Um,
yeah.
and it's a very closed-minded system of things, and it's no different in business, right? We're fed these things and told this is the way to do things, and so on and so forth. And people I work with, I meet them where they are and empower them to get where they want to go, right? The
I
vessel to
love
get
that.
there, I mean, there's tons of different vessels to get there, right? It's just
Mhm.
getting there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
same thing in the health spectrum. I mean, I copy that as like, I had take people and I really listen to why they're here, not just like I want to lose weight or I want to get healthy or it's like why do you want what's the real reason? What's that going to bring you? What are you really searching after? And then we hold them to that, and then we get them there. And then when you know that, it goes so much deeper. Like people might say, I want to be wealthy, I want to live a healthy life, I want to have a big house. But asking those few extra questions of why gets to the real. And then you find out if that's really what they want, there's something always deeper to it. And that's also a good way to hold them accountable because, for example, if I have a client who comes in for weight loss, but the real reason is they want to be able to play with their kids and not die at an early age like their father, then here we go, longevity and activity and like your kids. So you're living for something deeper. You're living for just you're living more than existing. And so I can hold them like, hey, when you want to call in sick or you don't want to like choose the right foods today, just remember, picture your kid's face and your funeral. Like so, and that's like, oh, but it's true. I don't
It
always say
is
it
true.
that, but it's
Yeah,
true. It's
that's true. That's true.
I'll say this one thing and then we can move on. I said to a client when he wanted to give up, I was like, remember he came here? And I was like, yeah, it was like my granddaughters. I was like, well, what about your granddaughters? It wasn't that you just wanted to be at their wedding. You wanted to have the physical ability to walk them down the aisle and dance at their wedding. And you said you couldn't do
Hmm.
that now because you can't. Is that still something? And then tears started rolling down. And he's like, you're right. You got to work, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like when you attach something deeper to why somebody's really doing what they're doing, then it has a bigger meaning. And then when those days you don't want to get up and do anything, you get up and do it.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of people that, well, everybody at some point, you get lost in your own bullshit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's happened to everybody. For somebody to say it's not happened to them, well,
Oh,
I'll
it
just,
happens. It's happened to me, man.
sure, it happens to
You know,
everybody. It's part
yeah.
of life, but it's whether you then choose to move on from that narrative or keep running down that dirt road, you know? So it's yeah, I mean life is all about choices, right? And we either make choices that benefit us and affect others other than our little 5 foot bubble that we live in, which is what I highly believe in. Man, if we can't affect something globally, I mean, that's my goal. I'm not saying I want to be Elon Musk or something, but I'd sure love to have some effect outside of my own bubble, right?
You want to make a massive impact on the world, and I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I truly believe we're built to serve and built to provide
Mm-hmm.
something, whatever, but in everybody's realm, that's going to be different in their scope, you know. But yeah, I love that. And you're striving for it and you're going to keep working it, whether you hit it or not, whether you become the next Elon Musk or even bigger than Elon Musk,
Yeah, who
the fact that
knows?
you're doing daily tasks to try to get there. So I love it. Yeah. I
Hey,
think that's what we're here for.
shoot for Mars. If you land on the moon, you did all right.
Exactly. There you go.
Long
I
as you
like
don't,
that.
as long as you don't land right back in the seat you started in.
Oh, me and my kids just watched Interstellar for the first time last week, so that just popped in my mind. If you've ever
Oh,
seen the movie Interstellar,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
shoot for this place, and then oh my god, you hit even farther, and then spin around to different galaxies, and then you find yourself in the library of your room. Anyways, you got to watch the movie to understand what I just said. But
That's too funny, man. Well, hey, I, there was, I mean, we just talked about a whole bunch of different things, right? And, I want to distill a couple of things out of your head, right? To share with maybe some young business owners, hell, maybe some old dogs, whatever, right? I mean, there's always lessons to be learned.
up and down.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong learner, man. I ain't ever gonna know. I always say that I know a lot and I know nothing. So
I think that's the best way to look at it because when we become experts, I mean, we close the door to continual learning in that area or
mhm,
whatever area. It's just like, you know, we should always be students, but we can also always be teachers as well because we can
right.
teach the younger versions of ourselves. But I mean, I learn from my kids, you know, like I think some
Yeah.
parents are closed off to even learn from children what they can learn. I've learned to like slow down to speed up. I've learned to stop and look around once in a while for my kids. I've learned to take my time at times and then speed up at times because kids have those speeds too where they slow, they look around, we're going on a hike, but then they have sometimes they want to sprint. And so even just
Hmm.
seeing things at a different height level. It's been incredible. Like being a dad, I've learned so much. It's also taught me how to deal with difficult people. So
Right.
they're
That's,
the hardest people to deal with.
oh yeah. I've been through, well, I've got 30, 25, 7, and 4. So I've I've got I'm hitting all the generations.
I got 18, 11, and 9. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where I
yeah.
am.
There you go. That's cool. Well, hey, so if you could impart some great knowledge on, the audience, some other business owners, I mean, hell, just a human being listening, right? To avoid some arrows in the back in life or in business, what's a couple of good nuggets that you could just share off the top of your head?
So many things I could say here, but what's coming to me right now is what's been my story for as long as I can remember. And I touched on it in the beginning, but just adversity, man. Like you're going to get knocked down, you're going to fail. It's how you get up. And maybe that sounds cliche and maybe you've heard it before, but also I'll add this to it. Don't feel you have to do it alone. Like something I wish when I was getting knocked down or finding challenges and navigating, you know, get some help, whether it be a business coach or whatever it might look like, a friend.
Sure.
Like I go to a Saturday morning group of men where we're all entrepreneurs and just good hearted humans that are trying to help each other out. Find something. Um, but also, excuse me, like, and if it's people you know, great. If it's somebody new, there's oh my god, in my industry, and I'm probably in every industry at this point, there's such a plethora of everybody's an expert now, right? So really like do your research and check your reviews. Don't just hire somebody off some really good ads because they just might be really good at ads and have no real experience. So do your due
Right.
diligence. But no, you might even mistake on that. So just like pick yourself back up from that. So I'll say that like grow through your adversity. Life is full of experiences. So there's things that you might be in right now. For example, here's number two. I would say is you may not seem like it'll aid or help later on, but it just might. And what I mean by that, I'll give some examples for mine. So I went back. So I was living in Kentucky, managing some businesses, and I went back to Western Illinois because I went to college in Kentucky, and I went back to Western Illinois because my parents were both going through cancer. My dad prostate, my mom had a brain tumor, and they needed help. And I'm the youngest of two brothers, and I honestly like for some weird reason I was like, oh well, I want to mix things up, trade. And this sounds so ADD, but I was like I want to get a job at a TV station. Sounds so random, but I felt called to do this, and I followed my intuition and gut a lot, and it's always paid off. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. Anyways, that's where I met my wife, which has gotten to me to where I am in life because she's been an amazing counterpart partner in life. But that's not the end of it. Like the TV skills and the interview skills and all that stuff has aided into a lot of things. I have a successful YouTube channel. I do have a podcast myself. Just communicating with people, telling stories, even. So
Mhm.
it seemed random at the time. I'm not saying go do random stuff either, but like look back on your past and never have the idea of like don't ignore it. Your story is your story, I've written two books out of my stories, and some of your most painful stuff, I would say your most painful stuff is probably what's going to get you to the next level. There's probably some purpose in that. There's probably some message in that, but a lot of people, especially men and business owners, sometimes we chase these things and ignore all that because we don't want to address it, whether it be like childhood trauma, like I've gone through, or some other painful past. But some of that could be what catapults you to the next level. So use that as a tool.
Yeah.
And so that would be my second one. I mean, like I said, I could say a lot here. Um, but also, I guess I've already said another one is remember why you're doing it. Like write down I like, and you should change this list pretty regularly. Like, what do you enjoy and why do you enjoy it? And what do you want your life to look like? Like, you should write these things down. These are things I do regularly because because motivation will end and you need something that's going to keep you going. There'll be days where you want to procrastinate, especially when you're running on your own time schedule and you don't have have somebody like a boss telling you what to do. If you're an entrepreneur, you got to set your own timetables And if you want to be productive, you got to be productive in the days you don't want to be productive. And that's always going back to your list of why you're doing what you're doing, your list of what motivates you, what do you enjoy, what do you want your life to look like. And so write these down. They're going to change, they're going to evolve. And then just always come back to them.
Yeah. Man, that was a great value dump. I hope everybody was taking some notes there because good little value dump on life and getting somewhere. And hey, at the end of the day, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. That's what I always say is just don't take steps backwards. Just keep doing that. I mean, there's a lot of things to do after that, but I mean, that's a hell of a good start for sure.
In my first book, I talk about the 4 F's, which is you probably heard in some other, but it was from my perspective, and it's faith, fitness, finances, and family,
Hmm.
whatever that looks like to you. Again, faith could be different, but it's like every day I look at those four, and am I doing something to improve at least 1%? It's usually more, but if you hold yourself accountable to that, like you're gonna see it. Be in the present, like use the past as a tool, but don't live in it. And if you're thinking too far ahead in the future, you want to think in the future, but you could get lost, and it could also hold you to stand. So just like you just
Yeah.
said, put one foot forward every day.
Yeah. That's it, man. Well, hey, how do you want people to connect with you, to work with you, to find the things you're doing, so on and so forth?
I'm a human, so you can reach out to me. Like I'm not going to be anything, but yeah, I pretty active on Instagram, which is just at Justen Arnold with an en, so JUSTEN ARNOLD. You could Google that. Honestly, if you Google Justin with an E, you'll find a lot of stuff on me. But that's my website too. JustenArnold.com is my personal website where you can get to my books, which are also on Amazon. But I also have my gym, which is Flexx Mobility and Performance, my health and wellness business, and that's with two X's. The website for that is flexxmp.com. You can find that. Same thing for Instagram. I have my gym site there. And then Flexx Mobility and Performance, you could type in as well, which will come up with my YouTube channels. And I put links on all these to connect with various things. Like I have a link tree and things of that nature. So I'm sure if you just honestly, if you forgot any of it, if you just type in Justen Arnold with an en, JUSTEN ARNOLD, you'll find quite a bit of stuff on me. So there's not
Awesome.
too many with an en out there. So
Yeah.
yep.
Some there's some like I have the most common name ever. I asked a SEO company, "Hey, can you make me number one searchability?" They're like, "You're crazy."
About your middle initial or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, well, we did figure something out, but anyway, so yeah, just to kind of close the show out here, I always like to end with this kind of thought-provoking question, and that is if you could have invited anybody here today, Justin, just to either be here, participate, whatever, any given time in the world, dead or alive, doesn't even matter. Who's somebody you would have thought would have been pretty cool to have here?
Man, so I've been asked questions not quite like this, and when at the beginning of the show, if you would ask me this, I usually go back to my faith. I am a follower of Jesus. I am a Christian.
Hmm.
And I would have maybe said that, but as I sat here and thought about this, it was something that touched on that made me change. Like it was my kids, man. If I could have all three of my kids sitting here, just listen to this and be motivated, because these are sides of my parents that I'll never see or never know, and they weren't like me, and they weren't motivated. I mean, and so if my kids could really just sit here, hear this, because I don't know if they'll ever watch this, and just get some of the tips and tools and know of the possibilities and the beliefs, and then also just like I said, people could, I'm sure they would throw nuggets out to here, and then it would maybe give people faith in the future.
Yeah.
People would have faith in kids hearing what some of my kids have to say. Like sometimes when I hear my kids speak or what they do, I'm like, I am blown away. Like my 11-year-old son, for example, like his ability to communicate, what he's reading, like everything that he's doing at his level. I'm like, man, I was never doing any of this. Plus his positivity, his energy, I was not like that. And so I hear some people that are, with the way the world's going and they're feeling hopeless. Like there's a good set of kids coming in because there's men like me out there and women out there that are like bringing up next generation with power and passion. And so, yeah, I would love them to be here for that too. Just not only for them, but also for all your listeners as well. So,
yeah, awesome. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you being on the show. I always say we all have the same 168 every week. Thanks for stopping by here for 30 and, just sharing your story with me and sharing your story with thousands and thousands of people every day.
yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time. And if I could do anything to give people some nuggets for free, there's so much out there, and hopefully it'll make a difference in at least one person's life, then I'm doing my job. So,
Yeah, man. All right, brother. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
so much.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.